water surrounding Nethlelakam, Bowen Island. Welcome to the Bowen Island Municipality meeting on May 26, 2025, and thank you for joining. I'm Councillor Tim Wake, the acting mayor of Bowen Island Municipality and chair of this meeting. I'd like to introduce the other elected members of Bowen Island's council here this afternoon. Starting on my left with Councillor Alison Morse, and on my far right with Councillor Islands Trustee Sue Ellen Fast, and to her left, Councillor Islands Trustee Amy Getty, and then we have Councillor John Saunders and Alex Jurgensen online, and we are also joined by several members of our professional staff here tonight, including our Chief Administrative Officer, Frank Dillon, and our Corporate Officer, Sophia Zinga, and other staff may be presenting agenda items here this afternoon. This meeting is being recorded, and when members of the public speak during public comment and Q&A portions of the meeting, your presence will be included, presence and voice will be included in the permanent recording, which will be available worldwide at bowenislandmunicipality.ca and on the YouTube channel in the near future. This council meeting is an official forum for the conducting of business of local government. We all love our home and we're passionate about what happens in this community. I'd encourage everyone to maintain a constructive and respectful tone during the meeting and to direct comments for council during the public comment or Q&A portions of the meeting to myself. The agenda and full council package for this afternoon's meeting are available at bowenislandmunicipality.ca. All right, now I'll look for approval of the agenda. Are there any on-field items?
Yes, there are 4 this afternoon. There are 2 letters from France de Ferrier and Andre Chabat regarding the rezoning for Lot 7 Adams Road. There's a letter from Drew Burgess regarding the same topic that replaces his letter that he wrote on May 23rd, and a letter received by Bob Turner, or from Bob Turner today.
All right, and I have a motion to adopt by Councillor Getty, seconded by Councillor Fast. Before we approve it, does anyone have any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. And that's carried unanimously. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have 1 person signed up for public comments today. It's Bob Turner.
Mr. Turner, you can have a seat, make yourself comfortable. You'll have 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And sorry, you have 3 minutes. The timer will go off when you have 15 seconds to wrap up your comments. And council may ask questions to you, but any other questions or comments will have to be until the question period at the end of today's meeting.
Good. So hello, acting mayor and council. I appreciate, and I'm speaking with reference to the Lot 7 Adams Road rezoning application. I appreciate the clustered development approach presented in this rezoning application and a large percentage of lands, greater than 75%, dedicated for protection. In other landscape settings, this would be very effective protection of natural assets. However, the wetlands landscape of Lot 7 on Adams Road are of extraordinary importance to water supply to Grafton Lake, and I urge great care and attention with deliberations regarding development of this property. I believe the essential issue here is the critical role that Lot 7 wetlands and groundwater recharge play in the water supply, green infrastructure of Grafton Lake watershed. As the changing climate is forecast to increase summer droughts and reduce dry season water supply for both humans and nature, our community needs to be proactive in the protection, maintenance, and enhancement of our island's natural water supply. Lot 7 rezoning application offers us an opportunity to get it right. I'm familiar with the property from site visits made over a decade ago, which time I took note of its biophysical attributes. As the property has remained in its wild state since, I assume these observations all remain relevant. Critical watershed significance of Lot 7. The property sits at the head of a long topographic trough that runs from Lot 7 northeast to Grafton Lake, drained by Bowen Brook. On Lot 7 and just downstream on the adjacent Dog Ranch property, this trough has broad, flat, or gently sloping floor covered with wetlands. Streams feed this extensive wetland from three sides on Lot 7. Murray Creek from the north, Buckingham Creek from the west, and Bowen Brook from the south. Bowen Brook drains from Quarry Park and Headwaters Park. The wetlands of Lot 7 and Western Dog Ranch act as a giant sponge for water, as most wetlands do, filling with water in the wet months and slowly releasing through the summer, and so maintain critical summer flows in Bowen Brook into Grafton Lake. As such, these wetlands are a critical component of the green infrastructure of Grafton Lake water supply. Wetlands are more extensive than reported. It's important to note that the extent of wetlands as indicated in the watercourse assessment report by Diamond Head does not reflect the complete extent of wetlands on the property. I believe this is because the riparian areas regulation has a focus on protection of fish habitat and therefore defines wetlands as those with surface connections to streams. It is only wetlands connected to streams for which development setbacks are required. However, much of Lot 7, perhaps as much as 50% or more, is covered by skunk cabbage wetlands, several times the area indicated in this consultant's report. The presence of skunk cabbage is a wetlands indicator. Much of the eastern lot is flat floor with widespread pockets of wet mud, skunk cabbage separated by elevated hummocks supporting forest trees, with the water table very close to surface. These water-saturated wetlands are likely connected to the Bowen Bay stream network by diffuse surface flow or shallow groundwater flow. My observations of these extensive wetlands are supported by the sensitive ecosystem inventory mapping done by Metro Vancouver, and I've included that map with my submission. From the development point of view, which is not my expertise, any structures built in these wetland areas, I believe, would at a minimum require additional considerable earth fill. For example, working from my memory of the land, the western two proposed lots in this rezoning application appear to be situated within these wetlands. Then moving to important groundwater recharge on Lot 7. Protection of ground.
Here, could you just wrap up?
Okay, so
Could I suggest, because there's no other public comment, we've got 15 minutes, but we let it carry on.
sure. Thank you, Allison. I appreciate that discretion, Council. Important groundwater recharge on Lot 7. Protection of groundwater recharge has been recently highlighted as a critical element of Bowen's water supply with the presentation to Bowen Council in December 2023 by William Schulba, freshwater specialist with Islands Trust. Mr. Schulba presented the results of the groundwater recharge potential mapping commissioned by the Islands Trust for 12 islands, including Bowen. This mapping for Bowen rates all parts of the island for their potential to recharge groundwater. Groundwater recharge is a process by which surface water from precipitation or runoff infiltrates the ground to become part of the groundwater system. This mapping, and I've attached the map, indicates that Lot 7 is largely within high groundwater recharge potential. This high recharge potential designation for Lot 7 makes sense to me. Where Bowen Brook enters the wetlands on the southwest corner of the property, the stream has built over the millennia a small alluvial fan of sand and gravel. As the stream flows across this permeable gravel fan, stream water will naturally infiltrate the subsurface, recharging whatever aquifer underlies the Bowen Brook Valley. Further to this, the extensive wetlands likely continually lead water downwards into the groundwater system. This underground water is a second, possibly very large storage reservoir of water, parts of which will ultimately rise as springs downstream to feed Bowen Brook and Grafton Lake. I believe that the protection of groundwater, of wetlands and groundwater recharge potential on Lot 7 needs to be a priority for Bowen Island Municipality. I do not believe that the information package as presented allows an adequate basis for decision-making by committees. Further assessment of the extent of wetlands and groundwater recharge potential needs to be conducted by a qualified professional so that any development can protect these critical water supply and ecological aspects of the island. Regarding transfer of lands to Bowen Island Municipality rather than environmental covenants. A number of past rezonings in the upper reaches of Bowen Brook, e.g. Headwaters Park, Quarry Park, Buchanan property, have resulted in park dedications to protect stream, wetland, and riparian areas. I believe this is appropriate in the case of Lot 7 as well. Based on past history, I do not think BIM has the capacity to effectively monitor and oversee environmental covenants as a way of ensuring land protection. Acquisition of these lands could be as a park or as municipally owned, specially designated watershed groundwater recharge protection areas. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I was driving by today and I was trying to see skunk cabbage. What's the season for them flowering? Are they finished now or are they just?
No, they're in full bloom. Yeah, they basically come up in January and they will run through the summer if the deer don't eat them all. And in the fall, they're pretty well disguised.
Yeah, because I couldn't see anything, so that's why I was curious.
If you just drop down onto the flats, you would see plenty of big leaf, you can't miss them.
Yeah, well, I know what they look like, but I was looking for the yellow, which is usually, or
The yellow, no, I think the yellow probably is all gone by now. That flowering, you're right, is more of springtime, January, February, March.
Councillor Saunders, did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Turner. I'm just looking at the letter you sent and the maps on it. And I'm presuming that one of the maps that you're talking about was the Shoba Groundwater Sustainability Program report.
Yes.
Could you describe for me exactly where Lot 7 is on this? I understand you said, we're in high and very high, and I've got a pretty good idea from looking at this map, but there's a whole lot of lines there that don't make sense to me. So can you, I don't know, just give me a description, and which would be harder to do than pointing to it because I'm not in the room, but just to highlight for me where we're talking about here.
Yeah, so you can see that the island is divided by these gold lines that sort of divided into components, which is the Islands Trust's designation of groundwater. I think they call them management areas. And there is if you look, there's one that has no connection to the ocean in the southwestern end of the island, sort of its interior. And if you look at that, the western line that runs north-south, you'll see that it transects a very dark blue linear that runs north, south, east, west. And if you just follow your line a bit, your eye up to the northeast or to the right, you'll move onto that property. Yeah, what I needed to do is blow up. If you can actually blow up that, it's a very high resolution PDF. You can blow it up and see much more clearly the particular property, but you need to see the cadastral lines really before you can locate yourself. I don't know if that was helpful.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I had a sense of where we're talking about anyway, but that description helped me. So, and I can go back and look at the zoning application as well. So thank you.
Councillor Klaus?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say other things eat swamp candle, skunk cabbage, too, wood ducks and Canada geese and things. But anyway, so they are disappearing by this time of year. I was just going to say that I asked Bob, should I say, former Mayor Bob Turner, I asked him where he got this great map because I hadn't seen this William Shoba map, and he had asked William to pull it out, if you could explain where it came from, because it hasn't been part of the Bowen municipal planning resources yet.
Yeah. So I have been talking to William because as with my interest in the upcoming OCP review, I think the work that he has done in terms of identifying recharge areas for groundwater in Bowen is critical. Essentially, recharge areas are the way we get water into the system. They're fundamental to sort of the resupply of our water. And so that map, I think, has huge implications for how we best develop the island by protecting these high recharge areas. And so I was in conversation with him on Friday, talking about what I'm trying to get from him, all the materials he's produced, and asked him for that map. And so he sent that to me. I've only had it since Friday. So it was just interesting to look at it and then realize that this property in question actually lies within one of those high recharge areas.
Thank you very much.
I think, if I can get a bit editorial here, I think what's really important here is that we, looking forward to the OCP, need to be taking on a holistic view of water management on the island. And that starts with the science. And what is provided here is a very powerful sort of scientific basis for starting an assessment of water supply management on the supply side. The demand side is more what is talked about, but really the supply side is what nature is providing. Councilor Morris?
There's a sort of very wiggly black line through the map. Is that Fallen Brook, or is that just sort of the lowest? It's sort of a zigzaggy looking, which black is high recharge, but it's sort of I didn't know if that was because it was a stream.
Well, you'll see some very striking stripes that cross the land. Those are actually, if I'm looking at the same ones, those are fractures in bedrock that act as access points for recharge. And because they're fractures, they essentially create pathways for recharge, very effective pathways. And so those have been highlighted when they did the LIDAR surveys and recognized those lineaments as sort of the top ends of these fractures. They became in their algorithm to assess recharge capacity, those shone high. They're basically cracks in the earth.
And I guess my understanding, this is a proposal that would help save those recharge areas, whereas rather than just subdividing it under two separate lots and going ahead.
Protecting recharge areas, my understanding is a big deal in a lot of jurisdictions trying to protect their water resources. It's just sort of fundamental that you do whatever you can to mitigate or avoid damaging the natural recharge of the groundwater system as a way to protect your water supply resources. And so I think this is why the Islands Trust Endeavour did this mapping for 12 islands with an attempt to sort of be sort of the science delivery to the front end of this groundwater management.
Okay, we'll be discussing this more in item 7.1 today, but I have one question for you, Mr. Turner. My sense from reading your letter and looking at it is it's questionable whether there should be any development on this entire. Are there some places in there where something could be developed without threatening the recharge?
I think you're asking a good question. I think the most buildable, and this is where I'm not on solid ground, so I'm sort of speculating, but the alluvial fan that is this gravel pile that's built at the mouth of where Bowen Brook comes in is set back from the stream course itself. It strikes me as the buildable site. Everything else has very high water table, or much of everything else, except on the far side of the property. So, I mean, I think that's why sort of a hydrologist or groundwater hydrologist or engineer, really, we need that level of evaluation. to understand really the building site characteristics along with the hydrologic property. So that I guess we need to understand how water works on that property, and then with that in mind, understand what therefore remains a sort of buildable site.
So how would that hydrology report differ from the one that is attached to the application?
Sorry?
How would the report you're talking about from a hydrologist, how would that differ from the report that is attached to the application?
The report that's attached to this was done by biologists. The biologists were paying attention to where streams are and where wetlands are connected to those streams, and using those streams and wetlands, then determining riparian setbacks as required in the riparian areas regulations to essentially limit development. And that's how it works. And the intention, my understanding of those regulations, is largely to protect fish habitat. They're thinking fish. We need to be thinking water. I mean, fish need water too. So this is a fish story too. But I think what the lens that's required in this property and everywhere on Bowen is to think from the water lens and ensure that we're not compromising water supply quality, in this case, or quantity, I mean, or quality. And so you need that trained professional who's thinking with that expertise to sort of assess, I think, this property.
Thank you very much. There's no delegations today, so we can move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items? Withdraw.
I would just like 12.6, which is one of the letters from Rebecca brought up, so we can chat quickly about that.
Any other items to be pulled? We need to and
Yeah, there, council should make a resolution approving the items outlined in May 26th consent agenda.
I move that council approve the items as outlined in the May 26, 2025 consent agenda, except for 12.6.
Is there a second there for that? Second by Councillor Getty. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. To 7.1.
12.6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So 12.6 is on page 110. And this is a letter from Rebecca Lynn about the challenges of the new ferry schedule for her situation. And lots of good points in there, but one that I think hadn't been brought up was the dangerous cargo sailings. How many of those sailings, in her letter, she says that she noted that 5 of them had been completely empty, going back and forth recently. And so I just wanted to bring up the idea of could there be mention of dangerous cargo sailings when we're considering possibilities for BC ferries. I know the mayor isn't here, this is mostly his file, but I just wanted to flag, I think she makes a good point. I wondered if reservations for dangerous cargo sailings might be appropriate, and then if there were no reservations, they could carry regular vehicles. I don't know, I just thought you made a good point there that I hadn't heard mentioned before. So I move receiving 12.6 unless anybody else wants to say anything.
All right.
seconded by Councilor Morris.
Aye.
All in favor?
All in favor, okay. Thank you.
Okay, now we can move to 7.1. Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report is to introduce to Council a rezoning application for Lot 7 of Adams Road submitted by Mike Lightbody. The property is approximately 4.42 hectares or almost 11 acres in size and is currently undeveloped, though there are the remains of historic work related to tree cutting, the remains of a skid trail, and several man-made ponds and ditches. The property is not serviced by a community water or sewer system. The application submitted is to rezone Lot 7 of Adams Road from rural residential 3, RR3, to rural residential 3C. That's RR3C. That's an existing zone variation. So under the proposed rezoning and future subdivision, the property is intended to be split into 4 single-family dwelling lots, approximately sized 1.1 hectares or 2.75 acres each. Under the current zoning, the minimum average lot area is 2 hectares for a property lacking connection to a community water system. So this would permit the property, this rezoning, that existing zoning I mentioned, yeah, that would permit the property to be subdivided into 2 lots currently. The proposed rezoning would reduce the minimum average lot area to 1 hectare, and that would permit subdivision into 4 lots, like 2.75 acres each. Each lot would permit 1 single-family dwelling with potential for a secondary suite on each lot. The proposed zoning is compliant with the OCP designation for the property, so no OCP amendment is needed. When comparing to neighboring lot sizes, surrounding properties within that rural R3 zone are similarly sized, though generally smaller than the subject property, ranging from 5 to 10 acres. Areas with much smaller lots under an SR2 zoning are located over 100 meters east and over 400 meters west of the subject property, ranging from 1/3 of an acre to 1/2 an acre. Regarding conservation development policy, this application is a good example of a proposal that checks boxes of that policy. So the policy encourages 1, an analysis of existing features and environmentally sensitive areas on the property. 2, a goal that 50% of the total land subject to rezoning is protected from further development and with priority given to protection of environmentally sensitive areas. And 3, the means by which the area is to be protected, such as through a parkland dedication or protective covenants. So through this application, the applicant has proposed to preserve over 75% of the subject property, and this would be likely accomplished through a conservation covenant registered on title, which would apply over the back end of the 4 lots, with each lot allowing a buildable area in the front end while preserving the rear 3/4 or so of each lot. And a watercourse assessment report has been completed by Diamond Head Consultants, which identifies environmentally sensitive areas of the property and recommends mitigation measures during the construction process. Council also looks to the affordable housing policy in any rezoning application, which encourages a mix of housing sizes and types, or even an inclusion of a percentage of units as affordable. In this case, the application makes no determination on the size, form, or affordability of future dwellings built on the proposed lots, and whether those lots include a secondary suite, as well as whether or not the suite is rented at an affordable rate, would be up to the future property owners. In terms of amenities, the applicant has proposed the dedication of a public walking trail across the property. This would, this would connect to the existing Trans Island Trail along Adams Road at the east and west ends of the property and would loop around the rear area of the property. There's also potential for trail connection on the north side to an adjacent property with the potential to be further extended in the future to West Side Road. The entirety of the property is within the watershed aquifer and stream protection development permit area. Bowen Brook, a fish-bearing watercourse, flows east through the property. 2 other streams are there, Murray Brook and Buckingham Creek. The applicant will need approval of the development permit before carrying out clearing and construction activities. As mentioned, they've already provided the watercourse assessment report from Diamond Head Consultants. 5 letters of opposition have been received from landlords in the area. The properties they come from are indicated on the map shown. Just 3 of them indicated, with 2 being outside the immediate area. Ultimately, this application is to bring about necessary changes to the land use bylaw to facilitate a 4-lot subdivision, bringing several units of much needed housing to Bowen Island. Staff recommends that council refer the application to the to the Advisory Planning Commission and the future Parks, Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee once established for recommendation. And that staff return with the results of those referrals and that staff prepare a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw to allow for the proposal submitted by Mike Lightbody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paxton. Councillor Getty.
I have a question, the difference between the map, in your report on page 3 of the agenda shows, 4 lots. And compare that with the map that's in the, I think the assessment report on page 15 that has a 5-4 unit, which is what the application you're dealing with?
So the application is for the four lot subdivision, single family dwelling each. That environmental report includes an earlier site plan, so earlier in their planning stages, they're looking at 5 fourplex lots. So that's still in that environmental report.
That's the basis of the environmental report, but that's not the application. Or it might be?
No, so they're definitely just looking at 4 single family dwelling lots. When they did the assessment, that was the plan that they had, but we will require initial environmental reports and development permits at the point of building this application would be about identifying environmental areas, environmentally sensitive areas of property, and would be used for approval for clearing for access and trails and things like that. So yeah, they'll need additional more accurate report, but we consider it's good enough for the clearing stage.
Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. To the chair, I'm sympathetic to the representation of Mr. Turner. I want to be clear in my mind. At present, if this zoning application were to be refused, the developer or the owner could still subdivide into two, and he's asking to subdivide into 4 with the rezoning application. Is that accurate?
That's right. So I might be struggling to catch every word there, but that's correct that it can be split into two lots under the current zoning.
So, and under the current zoning, if they were to split into 2, which they can do, would they have to protect 75% as the representation for splitting to 4 requires, or they suggested?
To Councillor Saunders, they would not be required to be, they wouldn't be required to follow the conservation development policy or to preserve 75%. Those are still environmentally sensitive areas with the wrapper legislation applicable, so there's still be some limitations around where they can build there, but definitely not full protection through covenant or dedication to the municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Morris.
I guess that was partly my question. I also had a question about the referral. I thought with the new structure, we were just going to be combining the Parks Trails Committee with the Environment and Climate Action Committee. So is there a whole new terms of reference have to be done before then it can be referred to them having a joint meeting?
Yes, there is a terms of reference that's been prepared and it's being presented at the June 9th council meeting. Okay, there's a binding committee.
So it's not really going to hold up the referral particularly. Thank you. My question was similar to Councillor Saunders that I think we should go ahead with the referrals and get the feedback back. This is an opportunity to actually get a covenant on all of these very important areas that former Councillor Turner, Mayor Turner referred to, and still allow some housing which is much needed on the island and easy access. The parking area would be a nice little pull-off area for the bus to stop and let people out. And to have a trail, which I assume you can have a trail through a watershed area without, that was a question I forgot to ask. Without, if it's properly sited and, to connect West Side Road to the main road, easy for people on, a bus and so forth. If we ever get a bus that goes down Sunset. I would be in favor of doing the referrals at this point.
Council Fast.
I have a couple of questions for the planner. Are we still on the questions part? Okay, thank you. If you could go back to the slide that has the property outlined in red. There. The one that's just below Government Road, Adams Road there, that's called P4, that's parkland, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's the piece of parkland I was thinking of, because that protects part of Bowen Brook.
That's right.
Coming down from Quarry Park, which protects another part of Bowen Brook. And going on to the right, in the map that was in the report, I thought I saw further along Bowen Brook to the right. Anyway, it doesn't show up on.
So you mean the one that's labeled P4?
No, that's the one I'm talking about. On this map that's in the report, there's another piece that's further along, but protects another part of Bowen Brook. Anyway, my point is just that this proposal, as I understand it, would put housing and roads across Adams Road from the park along the, I guess I'm not clear, would the housing be over the brook?
No, so, let's go back to the.
Oh, I see it, I'm sorry, got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, my other question is about what you've called Trans Island Trail in the amenities section of your report. And I just wanted to check, what you're talking about there would be the multi-use pathway extension, correct?
Yeah, it hasn't reached that yet, I don't think, but it'll become, yeah.
It's in the plan and the active transportation plan and everything as a multi-use path. And so that's a wider cycle path than what looked like was being described here. And Trans Island Path was the term we started to use way back 20 some years ago when we saw that Trans Island Trail had an unfortunate acronym. So you can, if you start referring to it as a pathway, then it also reflects more of the Trans Island multi-use pathway. And people will understand it continues from the multi-use pathway that's starting now, and that's in the work. So is that the kind of trail that the proponents are thinking of, the multi-use pathway? I'm seeing some nodding behind you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, good. That's my questions, and I've got more to say, but that was my questions. Thank you.
Further questions?
Well, a follow-up to that, the trail that would go from the property north down to that would run across the property wouldn't be the same size as a muck. It would just be a proper, traditional gravel trail. Yeah.
Oh, so there's two through the chair. So are there two public access routes being proposed? One, the multi-use pathway, the other, a walking trail? I'm seeing nodding behind you.
Yeah. Sorry, good behind you for.
That's fine. I assume Mike's saying that's, yeah, what loops around is multi-use path style, and the one little branch off would be a regular trail style.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? I have one follow-up. Just confirming that the area that's shown in blue or turquoise, that's labeled road, which I assume is where the access off Grafton Road is going to go in and then go to each of the lots.
Which one?
It's fine.
So this area right here. I just want to confirm that none of these brooks or water courses are going to be impacted by, filling that area and then creating a road.
Okay, so, to Councillor Lake, I can confirm, yeah, it doesn't directly go over any of the brooks.
Okay. And the other thought I had was that we should certainly consider Mr. Turner's suggestion that we get a report from a hydrologist looking at the water side of things as opposed to just the fish side of things. But I think that'll come up later when we get further along with it. Our responses back from the various referrals to the committees first. Councilor Saunders.
Prepared to move the recommendation as far as referring this to committee at this point.
So do you want to go ahead and make that motion?
Sorry, I was asking permission. Actually, I'd like to sever the two. And the reason being that I'm not sure we need to prepare a bylaw just yet until we see the results from what we get back from the committees. So I'd like to move the council refer application RZ 2025-0015 to the Advisory Planning Trust in the future and the future Parks, Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee once established for a recommendation, and that council directs staff to refer back with the results of the referrals.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilor Morris. Any further discussion? Councilor Faust.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be voting in favor of this step of the referring it to committees because I'm interested in what more eyes on the possibilities of this proposal could be. I'm aware that in our strategic plan, I think council has I think we've got $100,000 in there for a Grafton Lake watershed management plan, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what stage that's at, but this idea of a sponge wetland gathering groundwater and surface water and storing it in the headwaters of Grafton Lake, I think is important with climate change coming up. I think we need to protect the source, and this gives us an opportunity to do that, even though it could be subdivided now into 2 lots. And it sounds like many years ago that the soil was scraped off to be sold, according to some of the letters, and all legally, and a pond was dug, all, you know, I'm not saying anything bad about that, but it seems to me that this could be a very important entry point for fresh drinking water into our systems, and maybe some restoration work, maybe some better protection than it has now. And so I'm just looking farther ahead into the climate changing future. Plus, we've got the new information now from the Islands Trust through the freshwater specialist and the work that Trust Council has been working on for all the islands. And I'm really glad to see this map and I hope that staff will be able to draw on this kind of information if they ask Islands Trust for exactly what they want as well. And so I'm prepared to vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Getty.
I think at this stage, I'm going to be voting against this recommendation. I appreciate that the more eyes looking on it, the better, and that we begin to study it in detail. But I think that some of the things that have come up in the letters, particularly the one that I'm just hearing about this morning from Bob Turner, it's information that is not presently available to staff and that hasn't been included in the staff report, and I would like to have an update on the staff report. I'm not sure, I don't believe that there's anything that we can do in terms of encouraging the proponent to provide the different hydrological information so that it's not just riparian, that it has to do with the water recharging. But I think those are very interesting concepts and principles that need to be carefully looked at. So we're expanding on the Grafton Lake users, and I think we need to pay very close attention to protecting that water source. It doesn't have enough protections at present, as far as I'm concerned, with respect to public access. So I'm I don't want to load it onto this proponent, but I think that those are interests that we need to, from the perspective of protecting the water, that we need to look at closely. So if there's more information from the trust and more information from possibly another water engineer perspective, then I think that's important information before this goes to spend any time on the committee, rather than getting it later and then sending it back to the committee or any kind of process like that. So I think it's important information we received today, and I think we have to pay attention to it. So I think this is just one step too early.
So your suggestion would be,
Refer it back to staff.
okay, any further discussion? Councillor Fast.
Just that I think I've been persuaded by my colleagues, so don't be surprised how I voted. Because one of the because we've made changes in the committees, the Parks, Trails and Greenways Advisory Committee is no more, and the Environment and Climate Action Committee is no more. So they're not brought together yet. The terms of reference, we've had one workshop together, and I don't know who's going to be on that committee, what kind of background and working together continuity there will be, and it's a committee in its early stages of reforming. So I'm not sure how useful it would be to refer this to them this time before we have the hydrogeological report and more detailed work from Islands Trust through staff. So I'm persuaded. I'm going to be voting against this now. Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Yeah, I understand that argument. It just, first of all, I think that if we have a committee, this is their job, and yes, this committee will be in its infancy, but I've got a lot of confidence based on what I've seen over the past 3 years that all our committees are a lot of dedicated people that are going to do a good job regardless of how long they've been working together. I understand that there was no implication there that they can't work well together. It just want to state that they will work well together because that's the history of all these committees. And having said that, it strikes me that the committee can, if they choose to, can in their referral, they can say, you know what, we need more information, get it here, get it there. We need to hear from Islands Trust. We need to hear a further recharge report or anything on those lines they want. I guess it's just a case of which way is the faster way to move us to a resolution one way or another. And as Councillor Getty suggested, refer to committee says, give me this, and then we refer back to committee. So, which is what I'm suggesting, or what the recommendation is, which may be too long. And I think we get to the same place either way. Just a question of which way might get us there faster. I'm satisfied with the existing recommendation as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Sort of similar. I'm assuming that Mr. Turner's letter and mapping can all be will go along with the referral. It's not just a staff report. It's all public information, and they would have all of that and have the letters that the people have written in. So I think we should go ahead.
I'm inclined to agree with Councillors Fast and Eddie, especially considering the Islands Trust involvement here and getting a little more background on them so that when it does get referred to the committees, it's a complete package. And I don't think that's going to hold up the process. It's already going to be held up by the formation of the committee. right, we ready to call the question? Call the question, all in favor, raise your hand, say
Oh,
aye.
I saw Alex's hand was up. When you said ready to call the question,
Right. Alex? Did you have a comment?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I definitely also agree with Councilors Fast and Getty on getting a complete package to the committees, and feel similarly to your comments that it won't be really delayed much because there's already delays in process. So I don't think that'll introduce additional delays.
All right, any other comments? I'll call the question, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Too late, too late. Aye.
With
Opposed? Aye.
Nay.
aye,
Nay.
nay.
I think the motion fails with councillors Fast,
Yeah,
Getty.
Saunders and Morse in opposite, in favor. You only record the minority.
So councillors Saunders and Morse in the minority. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Backman.
Does council wish to make a motion to have staff read this?
Sure.
I would like to make a motion that we request a site visit and that the site visit for council be organized and that the hydrology report that was suggested be requested.
Sure. Yeah, through the chair, so their council is looking for a hydrogeological report. I just want to let council know that typically to do a complete hydrogeological assessment requires monitoring of the groundwater over wet and dry periods. So that report would take time to prepare. It's not something that could just be done in the summer condition. It would require more longer term monitoring. So just wanted to share that.
why didn't you say that earlier?
Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I taking that on board. I'm also thinking that there's probably more information that the Islands Trust has that might contribute to this work. This was a request that Bob Turner made for this map. I don't know if Bowen Island municipal staff have asked for this kind of info for the island, and possibly Dr. Scholba could produce more detailed maps. I'm not sure what's available, but I think this might be a staff-to-staff discussion. And I think maybe the scale of the hydrogeological report is something that council might need more, the scale and timing of the hydrogeological. We don't know what's appropriate to ask for, but to have some kind of report that's in the context of a changing climate, demands on Grafton Lake water supply and quality, and something to do with the I've lost the other part now. But anyway, something to do with the long range of the Grafton Lake Water Management Plan. What is proposed for that? Is there a context within that Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan already that we could, that staff could put this in the context of? Maybe staff can come back to council with a few options for what kind of hydrogeological report is needed and might be available.
I was thinking about amending the resolution to say to investigate
Councillor
type of.
Councillor Getty.
So I'm was going to suggest that we refer this back to staff for an update on information. So there's been discussions today between the proponent and the former mayor, and there's been information received by staff, and I think if we just get an update, I'm not sure that we're in a position to provide an updated hydrological engineering report, and whether or not the proponent would be willing to do that, take the time. And so we need to have an assessment of what information we've got available from the staff, possibly from the proponent, and come back and see where this goes. And maybe by then we'll have this new committee set up. So if we can just get an update, I think that would be a helpful next step.
Well, I think I started the motion.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
That council direct staff to consider information provided by letter writers, information from William Schulba of Islands Trust, and report back to council.
Can we still request a site visit?
So the council direct staff to schedule a site visit
I like your, other bit.
and to consider information provided by the letter writers, information from William Schulba of Islands Trust, and report back to council.
That's way forward.
Moved by Councillor Morris. Second.
Can it say with recommendations at the end? Report back to council.
With best way forward. Or suggestions to how we move forward. Recommendations.
Recommendations.
Sorry, what does it say at the end of it now?
Recommendations of how to move forward is what we tacked on.
I just had with recommendations.
Okay, that's fine.
Then I'll second it. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Opposed, any opposed? Yeah, that passes unanimously. Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthew.
People don't mind, air quality is getting cooler. I'm gonna open the door again. If it gets noisy, feel free to close it.
Okay, 8.1, amendments to the community grants policy.
Sorry, we're just on 7.2.
Oh. 7.2, establishment of a public art statutory reserve fund.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and hopefully this will be much less controversial than the last item. As the report before you indicates, on October 9th, 2018, Council adopted the Public Art Program and Policy, wherein it was stipulated that a public art statutory reserve fund to be created. That was never created. In light of upcoming changes to our public art committee of council program and agreements with the Hearth, staff believes it would be prudent to do that piece of housekeeping at this time. You also have a draft bylaw before you. It's one page. It stipulates that the Public Art Statutory Reserve Fund receive funds through cash donations, proceeds from sales of municipally owned art, and other contributions as approved by council. Eligible expenditures include purchasing and installing public art and maintaining, repairing, and other operating costs related to public art. Does anyone have any questions?
Councillor Morris?
The draft bylaw that is in front of us does not have the words related to public art in 3.2, unless there's a different one that's been changed.
I did make a change.
Oh, I didn't. So the one that's in our agenda package is
Yes.
changed? Okay.
Yes, on your great advice, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So there's been a public art committee and there's been a reserve fund and there's money that's been our budget, there's a line item. And there was a request to spend some of it this year. But this is because the public art committee has been disbanded and
The direction was statutory, and that's the part that never took place. So that gives an extra security that can only be used for that.
good. Thank you.
You wanna come on? Well.
Through the mayor to the rest of the council. There are two parts to any kind of statutory reserve. One side of it, of course, is the accounting piece. And from the accounting perspective, that includes creating a GL account for the statutory reserve fund and recording contributions in and expenditures out of that in the accounting records. So since the policy was adopted by council, all of those things have taken place. The actual contributions in and expenditures out have been reported on our financial statements each year in the statutory reserve section. The piece that we're just closing the loop on was the actual bylaw that needs to be passed to establish it. So I can assure you that all of the contributions mandated by council since 2019 have been put in and the expenditures approved within the 5-year financial plan and reported on separately in the financial statements. It's just this bylaw housekeeping piece that we missed back in 2019.
Thank you, CFO Watson. Councillor Getty.
I would never have suggested that otherwise. And I kept close track of it. Is there an agreement with the Hearth? Because my discussions with the chair of the Public Art Committee is that he doesn't know of anything yet.
Working on that. This is a step in the process of developing a new. Yeah.
Councillor Fast.
Thank you. I think this is good to see. And it's part of our strategic plan, big goal of finishing what we started. So I like the idea of closing the loop. I didn't have any concerns about it. My question is about the eligible fund deposits. I'm looking here, page 78, it's right above read the first time this day of. It says, eligible fund deposits, cash donations. Does that also include things that people might put into their will? Or any other kind, like could they donate land that we could sell to put in? Is it an all-inclusive term?
It is, by saying cash, it does have the illusion that it's only gonna be cash or a check, but certainly any acceptable form of donation to the municipality, the proceeds of that. People also donate actual gifts of property.
Yeah.
Our policy requires that gift of property, can be shares, can be land, either be evaluated, anything from a share perspective would be sold immediately and the cash proceeds put in. So anything that has cash, it would end up being converted to cash before it went into the fund. So that's why we're using the term cash there.
Okay, thank you, because I think this is great because I think it gives another layer of confidence to anybody who's thinking about making donations, that they would be held there only to be spent on public art. And I like, then I support the idea of cash donations, because otherwise I can see that, like many museums and other heritage locations I've known and worked with, that you might be receiving offers of donations of art or other kinds of things, but as you say, property or land, people might leave property, that kind of property. Anyway, okay, thank you. By having it down there as cash donations, I assume anybody's going to ask the same questions I'm asking and get that answer, that it would be converted to cash. That's the only thing that's eligible. Thank you. Okay, great, I'm in support.
Councillor Morris.
I was assuming other contributions that's approved by council would pick up things like stocks or property or whatever, and part of the deal would be we would be selling it because they're giving it to us unconditionally.
Other contributions is specifically in there to refer to the annual $10,000 contribution that has been approved through the budget process.
Cash donations to me, so what about cash or cash? I mean, somebody's gonna give you a piece of property. That's not cash, and there's no way you could say it's cash.
No.
That's why, that's what I thought was gonna get picked up under number sub 3.
It would be sold
Yeah,
and converted to cash, and the cash would be
Yeah,
put into the fund.
but the donor would be giving it to us, under the understanding that we've got to approve it, and our only reason for approving it would be we will receive it, but we will be selling it, we won't be holding it in perpetuity.
And if we don't convert it to cash, then we don't have anything to
Well, yeah.
put into the
but-
fund.
but I-
It does require that it get converted to cash to put into the fund. That doesn't preclude somebody from donating something to the municipality, but it does preclude it from getting credited to this fund.
Councillor Fast.
I'd like to move the motion. I move that bylaw number 688, 2025, cited as Bowen Island Municipality Public Arts Statutory Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 688, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time.
Seconded by Councillor Getty.
Second.
Hi, Councillor Chavez. Councillor
I was
Getty.
just seconding.
Yeah. Councillor Getty beat you to it once again. All
All those in favor?
those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Our corporate office.
Thank you. So today I'm just presenting the proposed amendments to the community grants policy, and that's policy number 15-002. The reason we're proposing these amendments is to establish a new process for considering community grant applications following the dissolution of the Community Grants Advisory Committee. The timing now is because the budget was recently approved and the call for grant applications will start in June. So as part of Council's broader strategic initiative to improve organizational efficiency, a number of committees were reviewed and restructured earlier in 2025, and the Community Grants Advisory Committee was dissolved. So as a result, we need to update the policy just to reflect this change and to ensure a clear decision-making process remains in place. So we're recommending a simplified process where a small jury panel that's coordinated by staff is convened to review and evaluate the community grant applications under the same criteria as they have been for many years. As a streamlined process replaces the former committee model and just reduces administrative overhead while maintaining fairness and transparency. So we do recommend as staff that council approve the amendments to the community grants policy as outlined in my report today.
Morris.
Schedule 2 is the only one that's really been changed, everything else is just headings. So on B, point 2B, it said if the application submitted does not meet all the application criteria, the applicant will be informed by staff. Well, then what happens? Is the applicant, because before I used to say given a deadline to resubmit, so now they can't resubmit, or they're just being told it doesn't meet the criteria, or are they going to be allowed to submit the missing information,
I think they would be given the opportunity to provide the missing information, and that would just be a conversation that takes place between the applicant and staff.
Well, that leaves it very wishy-washy, and because right now it just says they'll be informed by staff, period. So to me, that means your application didn't have doesn't meet all the criteria, so goodbye, go away. Whereas having them be given an opportunity to resubmit a revised application, I think should stay in there.
Councillor Fast.
I looked at this part as well, but I thought if applicants are, for one thing, it seemed operational to me. If this is staff doing this, our staff want to help the community. Second thing is, normally you wouldn't wait until the very last second to put in your application, in which case you'd still have time to make whatever revisions, or you might even run it past staff first and say, do I have everything? What do I do for this, 2A? What do I put in there when I haven't done this before? And so I just think, I thought it was okay the way it is, because it's operationally, we're putting it into staff's hands. Thank you.
Councillor Getty.
I'd like to have that last phrase repeated and not redlined. I agree with Councillor Morris. And I'm wondering, with respect to the jury panel comprised, the last member, the one member of the public, I don't know if there's any way that we can put it into words in here, but it would be very, very helpful as somebody that was has a lot of background knowledge about a lot of the volunteer organizations on the island, because there's the questions that come up during the process are, who are these people and what are they talking about? What is this? And it would be very helpful. I'm not sure how to write that in, but I think that's an important criteria. But I'll let you figure that out.
All right, so we're going to add back in and give them deadline to resubmit their revised application.
I think we could let and be given an opportunity to submit a revised.
You want the 5 business days? There's a deadline here, 5 business days, so it doesn't go completely off track.
I personally believe that staff can manage that. We don't need it. Money in it.
Staff
Just
issue, yes.
Okay, Councillor Fast.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at this part too, thinking one member of council, could they be the same member, one member of the public, could it be the same member of the public for the year, for the term, for 10 years, for 20 years? And then I thought, this is a process that's going to be run by staff. Presumably, they'll be appointing or they inviting people that they think would be useful. And so I, again, thought that was sort of operational, and I think we've changed it so there is no committee. Now it's a jury, and staff are appointing the jury panel, and I think we should just leave it to them, is my thinking about the one member of the public as well. Anyway, I'm in support of this, and it's great.
So just to clarify, are you suggesting it just say staff will appoint a jury comprised of, or sorry, a jury, or you want to comprise them of A, B, and C, but I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't very clear. I think it's fine the way it is. I was responding to one of the councillors' earlier questions about the member of the public.
Okay.
And saying, I think it's okay the way it is, but I could be persuaded. Either way. I guess that wasn't very useful. I'll shut up now.
I'll move the revised process for decision-making, Schedule 2 revised process of decision-making for the community grant policy as amended. Be approved.
So it's different than the recommendation.
Yeah, because I thought we should be specifically referring.
Oh, yeah, as
to-
amended.
And I
Yeah, so
did say
the council approved amendments to the community grants policy outlined in the report dated May 14th as amended. That's right.
May 16th.
Oh, the report was, oh, yeah, that's dated May 16th. Sorry. Good catch.
Okay, do we have a second? Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, second by Councillor Getty. Any further discussion? All question, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. A letter from Pierre Hurley from the Vancouver Board. And this is recommending we direct staff to request a presentation. Just to give a little background on this, we actually signed up for a pilot project of this digitally accelerated standardized housing a month or two ago, and this is a follow-up to that, and now they've actually developed the process. And I was concerned that it only applied to 6-story buildings. The whole model is 6-story buildings. And I wondered if there was a way, if that was firm, couldn't be anything smaller, or if we could get something smaller, seeing as we have a 3 or 4-story limit. So today I called Jonathan Cote, the Deputy General Manager of Regional Planning and Housing Development for Metro Vancouver, and had a conversation with him, and he said, in fact, it can be downsized to 3 or 4 stories. So I support this recommendation. And he said somebody would be happy to come over and present the digitally accelerated standardized housing dash. It looks like quite a deal. So, anyone else? Councilor Benny.
I'm prepared to move the recommendation, but if I may, I would also like to, if we do have this presentation, I'd also like to have a much broader invitation to the community, because we've got a number of people on the island that are very interested in housing. Get them involved in this information, in this piece.
So does that mean a committee of the whole, or?
Maybe. Whatever, advertise the presentation, however, the format. Like if it's, part of our regular council meetings, or it's a larger committee of the whole, just to broaden the invitation to people that are in the audience.
Suggestion.
Okay.
So we can make the motion that council direct staff to request a presentation on digitally accelerated standardized housing for Metro Vancouver, and that the presentation be advertised to the public through the municipal communications channels.
Second for that?
I just moved.
Any discussion? Councilor Fast.
Thank you. I was surprised that we've signed up for, as you said, the digitally accessible, accelerated, standardized housing program.
All we did was express interest in being informed about it and perhaps being involved in the pilot project.
Oh, okay. And where I was just surprised that it said 6-story rental buildings. I wondered, what does this have to do with Bowen? It's not only that, but standardized. So assuming a flat thing, how did we do this, express our interest of council when I, as a councillor, didn't know about this?
We got a letter from Chair Hurley, which we talked about here.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we.
Thank you. That's great. Then I just have forgotten. Okay, great. And I'm not against. I'm just going to support the recommendation. That sounds good to me. A presentation would be great, and it's interesting that it could be 3 to 4 stories. Thank you.
It may not go anywhere, but it's another option. I just think.
Oh, yeah,
sure. An option.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next is the letter from Don Schaefer. And the recommendation that the council refer the proposal to the next council's unanimously review or council receive for information.
I would like to propose, given we have an emergency program executive committee, which establishes this annual strategic plan and direction for the emergency program and the emergency program coordinator, that this falls within their purview and that we should be referring it to the emergency program executive committee and for them to make a recommendation.
Councilor Saunders.
Thank you. I had a conversation with Mr. Schaefer and some ESS members about this proposal before he actually put the proposal together. Don's a pretty well-known person in the community, and he's a very good communicator in the community. And this proposal is really about education. I think it'd be really useful to an awful lot of people. His ask of us is really limited. It's saying just support it, so I could say council is behind it, kind of thing. So what we've got is somebody within our community trying to help out and educate the community that isn't asking us for anything other than, maybe put it out there, kind of thing. And I don't disagree with Councillor Morris that it's an ESS thing, but I think having the full support of council to say, yeah, go ahead and try something, work with ESS, whatever it takes. Like if we look in his proposal, there's nothing there he's asking from us in my mind, and I think we should support it.
Councilor Morris.
It's not ESS, it's EPEC, Emergency Program Executive Committee.
Yeah, you're right.
And they're responsible for the activities of the emergency program coordinator. And I think that person, in reading Don Schaefer's proposal, would be working with him to coordinate and, with the emergency plan and all that sort of stuff. I'm thinking it would be the EPEC wouldn't disagree with it, but I'm thinking that's, maybe just the first line of referral, just so we know what the emergency program coordinator is on board and the committee's on board.
So
I'm comfortable with the recommendation the way it reads right now, but as long as we show some kind of support, if it's through the emergency program, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me, but some kind of support.
Councilor Fast.
Thank you. I'm going to second Councillor Morris's motion that it be referred to the Emergency Program Executive Committee, which is fine because the three of us councillors who've spoken on this, Councillor Morris, Councillor Saunders, and I are all on that with staff, so we can make sure that that what Mr. Schaefer is proposing in his wonderful offer is going to fit with all the other directions and media and education suggestions and best practices that staff have been working so hard on over the past few years. And we have a Fire Smart coordinator. It might be good to make sure that all of these messages are coming together in the right way. Nothing against Mr. Schaefer. He's been a valuable member of other committees and that kind of thing. It's great. I just think our meeting is June 16th. It's not very far away. That'll give staff a chance to connect with this idea and make sure that it isn't council inviting a volunteer to go off and do a whole bunch of work about information that may be about to change or that, I don't know. I just think there's a reason that we've got that committee, and it's the province says that we must have that committee, so let's use it. Thank you.
Councilor Getty.
I think this is a concerned citizen that is creating a podcast, and what I'm not sure that he's asking for us to become part of our committee structures. So if what we're suggesting is that we have endorsement and support from all of the different factors ongoing that are working on this. I think that's valid and that's something that he can take under consideration. But if he wants to create this podcast and have it available, I don't personally want it to get bogged down in our committee system and have endorsement or recommendation or approval by any of the other people that are working on this. It could be, and my guess would be that it would be very much in sync with all of the interests and the expertise, but I think it would be faster if he's encouraged to consider doing this work, and that he says in his letter he wants to produce it. I hope to speak with the key figures, including the Mayor, Bowen's Emergency Program Coordinator, Fire Chief, ESS, and their representations, RCMP, BC Wildlife, and others you believe would provide meaningful insight and guidance. So if this referral is to the committee for meaningful insight and guidance, that's fine, but I don't think that we're in a position to say yes or no to somebody wanting to produce this. So I think the recommendation is for it to go to the next strategic initiatives review. I think is a very long timeline, and at this point I think we should basically receive it for information, and that it obviously will be considered, and can be considered at the committee meeting, and I think that he will, once he knows that committee's meeting on June the 16th, he can make his pitch there too.
Just that, I think Councillor Saunders might be in front of me.
Councillor Saunders, I could see her.
Okay.
I could see.
That's all right. I'm practically invisible. To the chair, I think that the comments about like making sure that this is in alignment, anything he does is in alignment with other processes and other committees and whatnot. That's all well and good, and that's fine. And I think Councillor Getty's completely accurate, which says not up to us to tell him to produce a podcast or not. He can do that if he chooses to. And given his reputation, he's going to do a good job with it, and he'll align. He'll make sure he does touch base with whoever he needs to. And I don't want to put words in Mr. Schaefer's mouth here, but my impression is that like this needs to be done, and there's somebody saying, I'm frustrated by the fact that it hasn't been done yet, and so what the hell, I'll just do it. And I think that's the approach being taken here. And if it just means like put it in our strategic, planning discussion further on, that's fine. I suggest he's still going to do it and still going to, coordinate with the necessary people and make it work that way. So I just wanted to voice my opinion that it's a really good idea to have this podcast, however it comes about.
Councillor Fast, and followed by Councillor Jefferson, and then Councillor Morrison.
Sure, just that I'm assuming by making this motion, did we referred it? So it'll go on to the EPEC agenda, right? Does it say refer? And can you read the motion, please?
The council referred the proposal to the Emergency Program Executive Committee.
Great, so I'm assuming that that'll show up on the agenda, and one of us can get in touch with him and make sure he knows that it's going to be on that agenda on that day. He can speak to it if he'd like to, or whatever. Thank you.
Councillor Jurgensen.
Thank you. Through the chair, I was actually just going to ask if the motion could be reread, but also did want to voice my support for Mr. Schaefer's work. Thank you.
Now let's just carry on. Councillor Morrison.
My reason for referring it to EPEC was to get it going, knowing we're meeting. And it's important I think the idea of getting public knowledge out there, but dealing because EPEC controls the work done by the emergency coordinator, I think there's going to need to be a strong connection between the two so that no misinformation gets out there.
Councillor Fast.
Yeah, I think it's just a way for us to work together effectively and bring all the threads together. That's what the proposal's about. I don't have more to say.
Okay, from the chair, I think we're overthinking this a little bit. I'd just like to reiterate what he has in his letter here. I'm writing today to ask for your support, not financial, but collaborative. 1, your recognition of this project as a community-focused initiative. 2, assistance in connecting with individuals and agencies whose voices would strengthen the conversation. Feedback follows in that suggestion of additional people, departments, or perspectives you feel should be included. Your help connecting this podcast with residents of Rhode Island. So do we have to refer it to do all that? It's gonna happen. Anyway, that's my thought. So now can you read the motion?
Currently, it's that council refer the proposal to the Emergency Program Executive Committee.
And that,
I think I already seconded it.
Yeah.
Right? It's moved and seconded. Yeah.
Seconded.
okay, great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Maybe.
You can't abstain. Okay, motion carries. With Councilors Getty and Tate opposed.
I made one more comment. In light of what you read about the covering letter, I can't find that particular part, but I recommend to Mr. Schaefer, I've had conversations with tree fallers, and they're very concerned about forest maintenance and have many comments and ideas. They're not included in his list.
Which tree faller?
For different meetings.
That's about tree maintenance.
Okay, moving on. We now have a report from Metro Vancouver meetings. And, I didn't actually attend these meetings, but the mayor did, and we've talked about it, and I've gone back and looked at what was done. So I have a couple of short reports here. The first is on the electoral areas and small communities meeting held May 15th, 2025. And there was a discussion about, a presentation and discussion about the Bardstown Island Lake Improvement Project and improvements that are going to be made there and priority tasks. There was a discussion about the need to reform the Local Government Act. Metro Vancouver supports legislative reforms to modernize regional district powers, streamline processes, and address climate change and emergency management. And I think that's something that certainly we've talked about. So hopefully that's moving forward. Then there was an interesting item on Bardstown Island ferry service disruptions. And they've had disruptions. Repairs to ferry docks caused service disruptions, frustrating residents. Metro Vancouver and Katzie First Nation are working with the Ministry of Transportation to improve communication and minimize impacts. So that rang a bell. And as a side note, just to be clear, the Bardstown Ferry service is operated by Western Pacific Marine, not BC Ferries, but still falls under the provincial jurisdiction. And lastly, sharing resources and services. Metro Vancouver is exploring formalized resource sharing with small communities to address their unique needs. So those are nice words. We'll see where that goes. Okay. And secondly, on the board meeting held May 23rd, the board has decided to engage Deloitte that the board decided to engage Deloitte in February of 2025 be a comprehensive and independent governance review of Metro Vancouver. The review responds to concerns regarding the board governance structure and composition, roles and accountabilities, process, information flows, decision-making, and remuneration. The independent review was completed in May 2025. Key findings include a new board and committee structure is required to provide more effective governance and oversight to introduce a balance of professional experience and enhance decision-making and risk management. The board of directors are challenged by their competing fiduciary duties to advocate for their local municipality and their regional accountability. This is something we've been hearing about, talking about. There is a need for a governance committee of the board to increase the integrity, oversight, and ethical implementation of the board policies, procedures, and agenda. So it sounds a little bit like our trustees have been going through. The quadrennial municipal election cycle creates a high turnover of board members, resulting in the loss of institutional knowledge. The board continues to require objective insights and assurance regarding the risks, project controls, and internal financial controls in the organization. And increasing tensions and political differences are creating a culture of heightened mistrust and frustration. The report contains 39 immediate recommendations and 10 short to midterm recommendations. The board has decided to implement some changes to remuneration for committee chairs and is discontinuing the double meeting fees for board members. But all that sounds like they're going to dig in and make some changes to try to make things run a little more smoothly and cut down the tension. Okay, that's the end of that. Any questions on that? All right, moving along now. Our island trustees.
Sean, just a couple of things. Trust Council meets June 17th to the 19th on Salt Spring Island, and it'll be on Zoom, and anybody's welcome to watch it or Zoom in. If anybody wants to speak in public comments, you can do that. And the information's all at islandstrust.bc.ca. You can sign up and subscribe to get the agendas and all those kinds of things, just as you can do here at Bowen Island Municipality. Trustees have been invited to an agreement signing with Tsawwaut First Nation. So that'll happen on the Monday night, June 16th. So I'll be zooming into both of my municipal meetings that day from my transportation, however I'm going to get there, so that I can go in this in the evening. It's one of these First Nations signing an agreement with the Islands Trust, and that's very rare, so I'm hoping I can get there in time. The Audit Committee for Islands Trust and Financial Planning Committee are meeting on Wednesday. I'm the chair of Financial Planning Committee, so I'll be there and can answer any questions, or some hopefully can answer questions. And Trust Programs Committee meets on Thursday, and that'll be more about the Trust Policy Statement Amendment project that's underway with trustees weighing in on changes they would like to see to the current draft. Hopefully that project is still on track, and I think the survey for anybody who's interested in the Islands Trust budget survey for the budget for the next fiscal year, not this one that we're already entering, but the next one is open online, and the information is at the municipal website if they choose to find it in notices. Thank you. Over to my colleague who will give you more interesting stuff.
Oh, wow. So from the position of the chair of the governance committee, I'm very interested in the governance review that was just done for Metro. And I glanced at it, and I haven't done it, read through it in detail, but I think that I might have several words of advice to Metro in terms of not letting it slide, actually digging in and dealing with it and trying to make as many of the recommendations as soon and as quickly as possible. One of the things that just happened with the trust was that the governance review that was tabled in March of 2022 was spoken to in a workshop with the previous council, given over to this council with, I understood, terms of reference in terms of prioritizing and working through and making recommendations. But as we went through this council, up in, I guess, about 2 years into this term, this council insisted that we have a deep look at it and discussion about it. So we had a committee of the whole meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we ran out of time. We got halfway through, and there isn't another committee of the whole meeting scheduled. I don't know when we're going to finish it, but it is a bit of a drag in terms of getting things moving and done. So I recommend that people have the conversation as early on while it's fresh and try to figure out what the priorities are in terms of making recommendations and get on with it, because everything changes so much. And if you let it slide, then basically I think you need another governance review, and those can be repeated every term. So if you don't want to get into that kind of a cycle, I think you figure out what your best efforts are and where your energy can be spent and try and make some reasonable changes. I'm not sure when we're going to finish the process of having this council review it and a committee of the whole, and we'll see what the pleasure of the whole council is in June. We had hoped to finish it so that we could report and basically put it to rest, I think, or decide what the priorities were going to be, but that's not going to happen. So we might get it finished by the end of this term.
And when you're saying this council, you mean this trust?
Yeah.
This,
Sorry. So putting my trust council hat on for the moment. So it's going to be an interesting meeting in June, and it's on Salt Spring, so there'll be lots and lots and lots of protests and pageantry, and we'll see what we get through there.
Sometimes there's music.
all right, any questions for our trustees? Seeing none, I think it's time for a motion.
Question for you.
The large army.
If I'm going to say no question for it, then I will move to adjourn.
Second by Councillor Fast.
No, John got that one.
Oh.
You just did it by verbal.
Oh, I-
Yes.
I was there.
You're there. Okay,
Oh,
Okay,
good work.
we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
thank you, Chair.
Walking me through that.